evening, family. Welcome back to Thorough Black Talk Worldview. Hope everyone has been doing well. We are glad to be black again with you this evening. We have a very special guest coming in later on in the program to give us a bit of information. I personally believe she's one of the greatest researchers and historians on the planet, one of the most underrated and underestimated, and very rarely ever spoken of, to be honest. She is a genealogist and researcher. Um, Dr. Antoinette Harrell will be joining us later on this evening. Of course, our brother Blacksmith and Sister Marcia will be joining us. And I see we got our brother Tad in the building. Good to be black with you, brother Tad. How you feeling? What's good?
Oh man, you know me. I'm blessed and highly favored, sis. It's good to be back though. I miss you very much. The text messages just don't do it enough for me. I miss this interaction we have, engaging with our audience and everybody. And I'm feeling real good, sis. There's a lot of good things on the horizon. So salute to my brother C Gutter. He over on the continent right now. He over in Ghana with his first trip, so I'm excited when he get back, tell me all about it. Though I've been there, I want to know what his experience is like, you know. And spoke to Doggy Diamonds earlier. He got some things he working on. Um, got some things we gonna work on together. And salute our brother Victorious DaCosta. For those who may not know him, he worked on The Storm Over Brooklyn and a bunch of other things. And right now he got a project um about Jackie Robinson in Brooklyn. And it looks like it's going to be very powerful. So hopefully we can have that brother here soon too, but it's good to have your peoples doing great things, to be doing great things, involved with great people such as yourself, sis. Life is good unless the judge give it to you,
And we
you
don't
know?
want to see no judges unless it's in our favor.
That's right.
Yes, congratulations to the brother C Gutter and going home for the first time. So again, like you said, I can't wait to hear his perspective on his trip when he gets back. As you said, kudos to brother Doggy Diamonds and Corinne Bliss Johnson doing their
Yes, salute,
thing.
Liz.
Yes, East New York finest. Been doing their thing as far as the entertainment and the education of it all for our people. I'm a big proponent of truth and accuracy. And I have to give Doggy Diamonds his flowers while he's here, in my opinion. And it's my opinion. Matter of fact, it's my fact. He is one of the greatest hip hop historians there is, outside of, in my opinion, DJ Ralph McDaniels. Um, they both have an insight to that industry, a perspective from a black conscious perspective. Doggy Diamonds does anyway, along with his co-partner Corinne Bliss Johnson, not only giving us the insight and perspective and history of the industry, but also a conscious solution to some of the problems that entertainers and those of us who love entertainment face. Um, and again, you could catch Doggy Diamonds on Apple Podcasts. You can catch him on YouTube and Podbean and any other media platforms. We sometimes post his broadcast on our Thorough Black Talk page, so you guys can catch it there as well. There is no hateration over here. If you're doing real things for our people and for the community, we're going to promote it. So there's no hateration over here unless your character is flawed. We're not pushing that.
That.
Your character is flawed. I don't care how good the information is. I'm not posting Jack. I'm sorry. I'm not. And a lot of people, brother Tad, since we've been off for about a month, I think. But and thank you everyone who's been sending me messages and well wishes to get well. I was ill, and back to 100%. So I'm thankful for that. But you have a lot of people who give good information, but they are character flawed. And so when your character is flawed, and you don't make amends to the community, I don't want to hear Jack you got to say at all, because it's a contradiction. And until you fix that, I can't rock with you. So just be mindful of the information that you allow to permeate your being. Because, like I said, people with bad character flaws um, can put spells on the words that they're using, um, that can be detrimental. That can be seriously detrimental. So, just be wise in how you find things. With this whole thing, Brother Tad, people are making comments, about ye and all this old kind of stuff. I'm glad I was out sick, because I ain't got time for the foolishness. And you know, everyone was in an uproar, and still in the uproar for some of the comments that he made. However, no one called him a liar. Um, and you have to be, when you are speaking truth, especially to an element that controls not only the financial systems, but the political systems, not just in this country, but abroad. It can be very damaging and sometimes deadly. But I see a lot of people in his camp making commentary when they shouldn't. For example, when his account was closed uh, by JP Morgan Chase, stop talking. Your lawyers should be filing a suit against JP Morgan Chase for breach of contract, number one. Number two, for subjecting him as a black man to a badge of slavery, which goes against the 13th Amendment. And they should file a complaint, a formal complaint with the FDIC and the state in which he has that account, because it is those two elements that allow Chase to have a charter. So, chatter can be damaging to your success in changing policy that's beneficial to you. And I also want our people to understand, when you are dealing in a legal arena, um, be smart and be mindful. I see a lot of our people in the courtrooms do not know how to conduct themselves, bring their mama with them to court. It is crazy. And it puts you in a childlike position. And so, being that the federal government, don't say Thorough Black Talk said it, but the federal government said that the legal system is infested with racism. That's what the federal government commission said, not us. So don't say we said it. Go read it for yourself. There were several that were released. Um, we have to be smart and strategic in our approach in gaining what it is that we need. I see a lot of people in these media spaces. Um, I was on Twitter a couple of days ago, and there was conversation going on about independent black media, so on and so forth. And people were saying things that made no sense. For example, there is a digital media association. If you're in digital media, how come you don't know about it? How come you're not a member? There is the National Broadcasting Commission. Why aren't you a member? Why isn't there a Black Digital Media Association? There has to be commissions and associations that protect the artists. For example, in hip hop, I don't think there is, but maybe someone could educate me. Where is the National Hip Hop Association? There is at the Kennedy Center um a sort of association. You have Q-Tip on the board, you have LL and all these different people. But when I'm looking through its membership, its leadership, not one founding father or mother of hip hop is there. How could that be? How could that be? Who are you to say what is and what isn't when you haven't founded anything? See, we always look at the talkers, never look at the architects. And that is how we always get played, especially when it comes to hip hop. You have no mechanism to protect yourselves. None. All this money flowing and no mechanism to protect yourselves. So that's why people fleece the culture. That's why these labels can steal from you because you don't have a protected class amongst yourselves. You mean to tell me that there is no entertainment attorney that can make this happen for y'all? Or are you looking? Or did you even know to look for these things? I guess not. And I would pull the coat of most entertainers. I know don't know the legal procedures on how to protect themselves. Most people in these internet spaces don't have attorneys on retainer. Why not? Why not? But again, what do I know? But it is what it is. So some people got upset with what he said. Um, but where's the lie as far as who controls the entertainment industry? Who controls media? I have a book, a couple of books. It's around here somewhere. I'll find it in a second. One is about Rupert Murdoch, who was a media giant out of Australia, Fox 5 News, and the New York Post, and all of these things, of which he owned at one point. But the story that was written about this media powerhouse was written by a fellow hat. And this fellow hat clearly stated the deviancy of Rupert Murdoch and the media industry and who controls it. It's a book that I found actually in a dollar store about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I bought a copy for myself and a copy for Sister Katasha. Shout out to Sister Katasha. So don't sleep on them books in the dollar store. You never know what you'll find, right? Then I found another one um, in a dollar store, written by an Anglo white male out of Europe, and he talks about the hold that Hollywood has on U.S. politics and how they are intertwined. Um, Matter of fact, I'll find it in a second. But your thoughts, Brother Tad, on the shenanigans that's been going on out here while we were away? Thank God we was home.
Yeah, well, years ago, I was called the Coon, a sellout, from Kanye West TMZ interview where I said I agree with what Kanye West was saying, and Harvey Levin, a small hat, had twisted Kanye's words around. When Kanye said slavery was the choice, the topic was not slavery. I really want people to go back and revisit that interview because the topic was not slavery. The topic was becoming prisoners or slaves to our thinking, the way we think, us not changing our mindset, always operating from a victim mentality. And sis, on this show, we always say we not the victims, we're the victors. So I was like, Kanye must be listening to us because he said that, let's stop being victims, let's be victors. Harvey Levin years ago When Kanye was talking about us as a people changing our mindset, he said, don't become a slave to your thinking. He said, in fact, I won't use slavery because the connotation associated with black people, and how, we black people, we embrace slavery as if that's our history. That is something that has happened to us. Slavery is something that happened to us. And I always got to reiterate this point to people because slaves come from the word Slavs, Slav for the Slavic people, Yugoslavian, Czechoslovakian, all these European people, because they practiced it amongst their own folks before they brought it over, to the continent and enslaved our folks. And then, of course, we got to read, the Confessions of Nat Turner by Thomas Gray, not by William Styron, but by Thomas Gray. We got to read Harriet Tubman, The Moses of a People. We got to read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, where these people lived during those times, but never considered themselves slaves because they were not slaves. They were enslaved. And that's why the spirit of freedom always existed in them. And this is something we see within Kanye. Kanye is trying to break free. Now, do I agree with everything he does? Of course not. But I don't have to live with the choices he make either. But when he talks the truth, when he talks about the conditions of black people, I can't help but agree with him because he's right. When he talk about who the Semitic people are, it is black people. All the dictionaries let you know Semitic people are black people. We all of those of us who are students of history, of antiquity, we know the real Jews are black people. Shoot, Dr. Ben was a Jew, one of our most beloved Jews within our community, not to mention Sammy Davis Jr., Hebrew Israelites, and all other people who know the true history of who we are as black people. Not saying all black people are Jewish, but the original Jews are black people. And we understand the Ashkenazi Jews stole our identity / birthright, like they told you Jacob did in the Bible when he stole the birthright from Esau. But I don't want to get into the philosophical stuff. I want to talk about how layers are now being pulled back, and we are now in the new world order where information is at our fingertips. We literally walk around with mobile computers in our pocket. We're not in the times of the 70s and 80s and 60s where many of us first started getting this information. We can talk to people on the other side of the world in real time and dispel all kind of myths. So Kanye was not lying when he talked about them running the industry, them blackballing people. We always talk about this, Sister Keisha, them paying our young people millions of dollars to promote genocide. Millions of dollars to promote genocide. He's not lying about that. They act like they're so upright in righteousness, but we're the only people that they give millions of dollars to preach genocide. And I'm glad Kanye used that word in his interview with the white guy, I forget his name, not Piers Morgan, but the other one.
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson. When he talked about the image of Lizzo. When he talked about how they promote obesity in our community, which is true. They're promoting obesity. We know they give us inferior foods and then want us to celebrate our diabetes and heart disease and all this foolishness. And us, many of our folks are ignorant. We adopt this BS. You know what I'm saying? We adopt it. So when we see somebody big and overweight, we talk about they healthy. Yeah, he healthy. No, he's not. What I always say, Sister Keisha, we keep talking about we're at war, but many of us are not even in condition to fight folks back. Every time I train for a marathon or a race, and I'm in Central Park or Prospect Park, whatever park I'm in, I see our folks going to church and I see other folks in the park exercising, working out. We're buying stuff that they sold us that ain't worked for us yet. Meanwhile, they're preparing for the war because they understand it's a war. It's a psychological, and it's only a matter of time before it get physical again. But they know if we get in physical shape, that it's over. They know that if we wake up and get our minds right and get in tune to who we really are, intellectually, historically, and spiritually, it's over for them. And Kanye is literally pulling the layers off of this. And these folks are mad. JP Morgan Chase got the audacity to close his accounts talking about it's anti-Semitic.
Which is against the law.
Right. But we can talk about the history of Chase Morgan Bank
Come
holding
on.
black people as collateral during our enslavement. Come on. When we talk about Wall Street, people never talk about why Wall Street is called Wall Street. And that's because free black folks were helping free enslaved black folks that they was bringing on the shore, selling us. We were the first commodity on the stock exchange. I mean, the Native American Museum down on Wall Street, what is that, Bowling Green, the bottom of Broadway. If you're in New York City, go in the museum and look. The history is there. They'll show you the manifestos. They'll show you the rosters and of us being the first cargo on the stock exchange. Not orange juice, not pork belly, not Microsoft, not Amazon. We were the first commodity on the New York Stock Exchange. But we had folks with a spirit of liberation who kept interrupting the sales of black folks, so they had to build a wall so that they could sell us without interruption. This is why it's called Wall Street. And I'm not making this up. I'm telling you where to find this information at. But I find it so ironic that they're doing the very thing that he's charging them with, blocking him, blocking his freedom of speech. Sister Keisha, I'm about to pass the mic, but you know how we do when somebody lying, right? We let them keep talking. And then we tell other people, yo, you hear this foolishness? No, say what you just said when they talking foolishness. But he's not talking foolishness. Not when it comes to who has the power. Because one thing I like in the Drink Champs interview, DJ EFN, shout out to him, he told Kanye, you sound like you jealous. And Kanye said, yeah, I am jealous. I'm jealous that all of these people are making money off of our culture, off of our industry. Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm jealous that when one of them make money, 5 of them also make money. He said, yeah, I want my people to have the same power that they do, the same resources. That's what I want. So yeah, I'm jealous. I can't disagree with that. That's what we fight for. This is what we give information for. This is what we do our fact-finding missions for and things like that. When we buy all these big, boring books and we sit through these long lectures and show up at these town hall meetings and travel back and forth to the continent, this stuff is not free. When we spend our Thursday evenings just to share this information with the family. This is what we do it for, because knowledge is power. So we're trying to empower our people, but we have to change our mindset. Get out of this victim mentality. Slavery is this big in our history. And our story, the grand scheme of things, slavery interrupted our history. We have thousands and thousands of years of greatness prior to our enslavement and colonization on the continent. But they don't want us to peel back the layers, but you can only hide the truth but for so long, because it's now being uncovered, Sister Keisha. And just because it's Kanye, who don't always makes the best decisions, who am I to judge? Because he got to live with that. He had to live with who he decided to marry. He has to live with some of the statements he made. Do I agree with everything he says? No. Do I agree with some of the things he says? Yes. Because when it comes down to who's controlling the industry, who's promoting genocide in our community, who's giving our young people millions of dollars to promote death in our community, I will not disagree. I would be disingenuous to disagree with those points. You know, and another thing I wanted to add in terms of George Floyd, I didn't agree with the method on which he said things, and peace be on to George Floyd. But when he said Jewish people control black people's voice, I can't disagree, because we understand with the advent of the NAACP and how they duped W.B. Du Bois and our sister, what's the queen name? Ida B. Wells. She joined the NAACP, and how they left. They won't talk about them leaving. But the NAACP were founded by Jews to control black people. And Margaret Sanger was down because they used W.B. Du Bois and Ida B. Wells to try to dupe our people into Planned Parenthood, bringing it into our community, talking about its health services for our people. All of this is true. All of this is documented. She called us the Negro problem. and said the way to fix it is to kill us before we're born. So they put abortion clinics in our community. And our people do go in droves. We gotta speak truth to power. We gotta be honest about it. This is genocide Kanye is talking about. And in fact, on Tucker Carlson, he used that word. Genocide. Genocide. I mean, I don't know what it's gonna take for our people to get it, because then you got people like my son who is caping for Vlad, you know. Here it is, you caping for a Jew who wouldn't apologize to Farrakhan. It's the only reason why you and Lord Jamal left him alone. Because had he gave a half-assed apology, they'd have been right up under him. So I don't get it no more. I don't get it. And when people speak the truth, everybody act like we're the villains. One thing Kanye said, he said, yeah, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. So hurt people hurt people. And I respect that, because you shouldn't negate your pain to accommodate somebody else. F them. F them. This man is hurt. He is in pain. His mother died. His wife is a hoe. I mean, I would be in pain. My wife got sex tapes going around, and now she want to act ignorant, act innocent, and all upright. Come on, man. It's too late for that. He should have known better, but this will happen when you ain't from the soil like that. When you don't recognize jump offs. I mean, it's so multi-layered, Sister Keisha, and there's so much more I want to say, but I'm trying to temper my emotions, because inside of me it's boiling, it's raging, because these are the things we talk about every Thursday, every time we get together, even in our text messages. When we get up, we don't talk about the new Balenciagas and the new Maybach. We don't talk about that. We talk about how can we empower our people with information so we can get out of this rut we in. And we know it's not going to happen within our lifetime, but we're still going to push this vehicle forward. It may happen the generation behind us or 2 generations behind us. Because I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that we'd be here in the New World Order. You think the technology we have surpassed the Jetsons. You remember we was kids and we watched the Jetsons and they had the Visiphone and all that. Now we got the Visiphone in our pocket that could do more than just watch TV. It could scan codes. It could tell temperatures. It could create timelines like level lines, and it's so crazy where we are. But basic stuff about human decency and showing love for one another is scorned, is shunned upon. People don't realize they want to move to the left and talk about the right. And I tell people all the time, conservatives, I'm not talking about extreme conservatives, but most conservatives just want to conserve family values and decency. The left, the far left, they want to introduce you to all types of degeneracy. They want to put trans people in charge of our children. They want us to omit what our agenda is and not identify what we know to be natural. They want us to play stupid along with them. And most people are supposed to be children of God, but they follow in the plan of the devil. Because anything that goes against nature is demonic. I get it, there's times we got to enhance nature, help things go along, because we're God by nature. I mean, if you don't believe in the lessons, you can read your Bible or whatever. But at the same token, we're here with a purpose and on purpose. But many of us are not living our purpose. So we just running around like sheeps and clones and drones. And when somebody put a little spark to the gasoline, everybody want to act like, I don't know, sis. It's just crazy. It's just crazy where we are. Because though Kanye, and I'm not saying he's perfect, by no means, but I'm not going to condemn my brother either to side with some Europeans and make them feel good. I'm not going to do that, because I always question myself. Anytime my thoughts and opinions are in alignment with mainstream media, I got to reevaluate my position and dig deeper into my books and what the ancestors told us. But I'm going to step off my soapbox for now.
I feel you, brother. I'm trying to help our
Sorry to be
brother
so long.
Ashe work this out so he can get in. But absolutely, absolutely. The problem with that, as you said, everything that he said about who the controlling powers are is right and exact. Right and exact. Just look at the names of the ownership and their affiliations. and how they identify themselves. So again, they are upset, but no one called him a liar. The issue with that is his mental defect, because it shows through with the sporadic commentary, not staying focused, um, and it makes you look crazier, and they can play with that, and that's a problem. He has to get that under control, um, seriously. And as you said, in one voice, he's saying, the culture didn't help him get his children, and how he doesn't want his children raised by a white woman or whoever. I'm not helping you with that. You're on your own, as you said.
Yeah, that was his
Um,
choice.
that's your choice. You're on your own. Um, Figure that out. Um, so until he can understand, see, media is not just about projecting imagery. It's about controlling the mind. It is the first stage of war. It is propaganda. So that is the goal. In any arena that you are being interviewed in, especially on those particular panels, where it's Fox News or whoever, you should know beforehand what questions you're going to be asked so that you can stay focused and answer just those questions. When you are all over the place, people see that. So I don't know who is around him that can help him with that. Um, but I hope that he does get help with that, because what he said is right and exact, and you can't deny it. Um, Let me see. I can't. Okay. Trying to help our brother Ashe. But anyway, family, if you haven't heard, it's all over the web. You can go out, find it out for yourself. If you're out of the loop, then I feel sorry for you too. Because I'm not going back to help you with that. So, it is what it is. For example, when we received the strike on our YouTube channel, um, I made a formal complaint with the Digital Media Association against YouTube. How many media, allegedly black owned or black run, are making formal complaints, legal complaints? Now I have to give a deposition. You have that ability. The problem is, as Brother Tad said, we sit with many computers, and you still dumb as rocks. You can't be in this game and don't understand the legal apparatus of it. You're gonna get played. They took that strike back. I'm not playing. I know who to go to. I know the right doors to knock on and the right questions to ask. And that's the problem. Because now people that he gave interviews to are now backtracking, backtracking, sidestepping, apologizing for
But
no reason.
only the black people, only the black people,
Come on, Tad.
only the black people. Tucker Carlson, Piers Morgan, they're not even being asked to apologize.
Chris Cuomo, none of that.
None of the, but Nori, and the show that didn't even air yet, or like we're not gonna air it. What's that LeBron show?
Mm-hmm.
But this speaks to his point, how they try to silence you. Because whether we agree or not, he's sparking a conversation that's making you take a look deeper into it. Even if you never heard this stuff before, now you're going to be inquisitive to look. Well, what does Semitic mean? He's saying anti-Semitic. Well, what is anti-Semitic? All right, it means you don't like Semitic people, but who are Semitic people? Now when you crack that dictionary, you see it was like Afro-Asians and Hebrews and Arabs. It's like, hold up. Well, who are the real Arabs?
Come on.
Arabs are not the ones that we think now, just like Jews are not the ones we think now. But it causes you to pull back the layers. And this is what they don't want. They don't want you to start having critical thoughts. They don't want you to think outside the box. Stay within the box. That is how you make a slave. This was in the Willie Lynch letter. It's called Let's Make a Slave. The Willie Lynch letter. That's the title of it. Let's Make a Slave. And Dr. Carter G. Woodson talked about it in The Miseducation of the Negro. And the other book, The Education of the Negro. I don't know if that came first or second. I think The Education of the Negro came first, and then he put out The Miseducation of the Negro. But nonetheless, it's all up here. This determines whether you're going to be free or be a slave. This is the original computer. And it only accepts what you program it to accept. You program it for mediocrity, for submissiveness, for slavery, it's going to be a slave. Program it for liberation, freedom, intellect, critical thought, discernment, it's going to do that. It's like when we first learned our computers, right? Sister Keisha, back in the 80s. If you try to program the computer with some BS, what did it say? Syntax error. Syntax error. This don't make no sense. Syntax error. But somehow they reprogrammed and rewired our folks, black people, that genocide is cool, that taking poison is cool, that all the things that we do that's destructive to us is cool. And that's something Frederick Douglass said. He said, anything a black man tries to do to empower or enhance himself, he gets met with all kind of resistance. But anything that's detrimental to him, he gets all types of support. And I'm paraphrasing, but that was his point. I'm sorry to hog the mic. I'm sorry, Sister Keisha. You was making a point, though.
No problem, brother. No problem. I was just helping our brother Ashe get in here. These are the books that I was talking about. I told you I had them around here somewhere. I'm working on cleaning my space here. Don't y'all make fun of me. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't see the mess. It's in front of me. But anyway, here's the book. I think you can see it. Maybe. Let me see. There it is. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, the last of the old media.
That's right. Um, and I think you could probably get it online, maybe for like $7 or something. But I happen to find it in a dollar store. It's a very interesting read. But even more interesting is this book entitled Citizen Hollywood, right? This book, it says how the collaboration between LA and DC revolutionized American politics. Now, in the jacket, you ain't got to go far, okay? I know sometimes our people don't like to read. But in the second paragraph of the jacket, it says celebrity activism exerts a subtle power over the American political process. And that pressure is nothing new. Through money, networking, and image making, the movie industry has shaped the way the politics works for nearly a century. It has helped to forge a culture that is obsessed with celebrity and spectacle. In return, politicians have become part of the fabric of Hollywood society and cater to the wishes of their newfound friends and fundraisers. Using original archival research and exclusive interviews with stars, directors, producers, and politicians from both parties, Timothy Stanley, who is the author, shows that the only way to understand the image obsessed volatile politics of modern America is to understand the hidden history of Hollywood's influence over Washington. Hollywood activism consists of self obsessed movie stars promoting pet causes, whether defending marijuana legalization or Second Amendment rights. There's some truth to the stereotype that in this book, you will find close personal friends of Fidel Castro, wannabe cowboys, and the ever ubiquitous Barbara Streisand. But Citizen Hollywood makes a far more serious case that Hollywood's influence in Washington runs deeper and affects the country's government more than most of us can imagine. So, if you can, it's a very interesting book. Um, and the author, particularly deals with the Clinton administration and Barack Obama's administration. So don't be
Mm.
sleeping on these books you see in the
So,
dollar store, yo. I'm
so,
telling you.
this, so this is a new book. I mean, of recent times, because
Yes, I got this about 4 years ago. The publishing date. Go ahead, brother Tad. I'll find the publishing date.
no, because as you was reading it, I was thinking about a documentary I saw back in the '90s, pretty much along the same lines about Washington and Hollywood's relationship. And I did not know until this documentary that the FBI didn't have guns until they put it in the movie. They said, and that's how much
CIA.
the FBI was
The
functioning.
CIA is a consultant of Hollywood films, right? The
Yes,
CIA
they
has
talked
long
about
been a consultant. So again, with all of this information, now, because we gotta move through here. With all of this information, what disturbs me with black entertainers is all this bravado against each other. You will disrespect each other. You will disparage each other. You will fight each other. Some have killed one another. No bravado against these hat gangs that control your industry. None. And that, my friend, is when your car gets pulled. And until you understand that philosophy, you are always going to be played. And I don't care what you do about it. I don't care. You're going to always be played. Don't have that bravado for each other when you ain't got nothing from the person who been robbing you for centuries. For centuries, as this book said. For centuries. They've been robbing you. Come on, family. We got to do better. I see my brother Ashe SJ is black and full of fat. What's up,
salute, bro.
brother Ashe? Or Mr. Moshood?
What's the vibe? What's the vibe, yo? Yo, I miss the family. You know what I'm saying? But if you ain't see me, I've been busy. I definitely been moving, shaking and moving, making some stuff happen for myself, for my family, and things of that nature. So that come first. But I'm grateful. First and foremost, I'm just super grateful, man. I got a lot of great things going on for myself right now. And we just gonna keep that moving and keep on building this community that we got. So salute to all the people that been supporting us for all this time, supporting me as well. But I'm grateful to be back with the family, man. And this topic that y'all talking about right now it's a very, very hot topic. I don't really do the social media thing online, but the Facebook and stuff. But I pop in here and there, and all I see is divisiveness. All I see is all people fighting and calling all people out of our names over somebody we don't even know. Somebody that is mixy, themselves, and is very suspect, and you can't really trust nothing he say. All you could do is trust the things that he say if he's telling the truth and if he's talking facts, and a lot of us need to learn how to just detach from the celebrity worship and detach from the emotion and the wishes and the hopes and the dreams that we have for certain people or for ourselves, and just deal with what's concrete, deal with the facts. You know what I'm saying? So I like what Tad was saying about Ye, where he was talking about just the facts. For the first 2 minutes of that whole interview, and I'm gonna keep it brief because I know y'all already broke it down, but the first 2 minutes, which was the most controversial minutes of the whole interview, which was probably the only part of the interview that got him in this hot mess that he's in. The whole first 2 minutes was silent. You know what I'm saying? The whole first two, when I first heard it, right? Because it's interesting, because I've been tapped out of this whole social media stuff, so I really didn't know. Like, I heard of what was happening, but I didn't tap into it. I strategically was like, nah, I really don't even care. I'm working on myself right now. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of us got to focus on, because we get sidetracked and there's so many other things going on, you know what I'm saying, in the world or in your world personally with your family and
facts.
self personally, that we forget to even pay attention to those things and pay more focus on those things. Now we caught up in the, who's dating who lost money. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, none of us ain't see a quarter of that goddamn money. We probably ain't even see a quarter of the money. Like a goddamn quarter.
A literal quarter, right?
We paying his ass money. You know what I'm saying? We mad that he losing more money. You see how the psychology of it works? But at the end of the day, I just recently tapped into it, and I'm saying that to say, like, I was so caught up in the gist of what everybody else was saying about it before I watched the interview, that I was already going into it expecting like, yo, this is some F-boy talk, which it was kind of, you know, I mean, he's a huge F-boy. I ain't going to use the word. He's definitely a huge F-boy. And we could break that down on a different level. But I already went into it thinking that. And then when I watched the interview, I was actually surprised. For a second, I think I threw a Black Power fist up. I was like, oh, shit. Oh, wait, I had to put my fist down for a second. Hold on. Oh, no, it's Kanye. Hold on. Can't put it up too high. Just a medium fist, you know? But, yeah, it was very rousing, I would say. It was definitely rousing, especially for the rebels like us that have been waiting for somebody to say certain things on mainstream media for a very long time, and we never get it. But the point that I'm going to make, because Tad already broke it down and things of that nature, it's 2 points that I'm going to make. The one of the main points that I want to say that affected me is at times, right, matter of fact, all the time with our people, with Black people, right, we don't understand the power in the messenger. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's good to just take the message for what it's worth. But at the same time, when we're moving collectively as a community, we're supposed to move strategic. And when you see Ye, you see somebody that is not moving strategic, a part of the community. You see somebody that wants to be this leader, that wants to lead the whole community, but you can't tell him nothing. He has no counsel. Did he go to any elders? You know, before he decided to make this decision, he's making decisions for the whole goddamn race based off the fact that no Black person has more money than him. That's what he said. Oh, if you don't have no more money than me, then why should I take your advice? You should take mine. So is that what he gonna tell the elders then? Because the elders definitely ain't got no more money than him. Nobody. He's the richest Black man in history, American history. But he can't sit at the feet of the elders. So when I see that automatically tells me that his morals and his principles, his whole character is compromised. And we've been knew this from back in the days, but these are the things that people neglect to speak about when they start going on their rant defending Ye. Because he been suspect. He's not even suspect. He's a character. He's a main suspect. You know what I'm saying? He done proven his allegiance that it's not straight to all people. Even though he tries to make it seem like he's doing these things for all people. Even the Parler app, Keisha sent us the link that said that the app that he's trying to purchase to be a part of freedom of speech actually has a past history in the insurrection with the white supremacists. You know what I'm saying? And for a long time, he's been like pleading and trying to make it. See, everything he does it. And this is what Tad was saying earlier about the past when he said certain things about slavery. But yeah, like Tad, he takes the good and spits the bad out. And that's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do. But for me, because I'm very sensitive, if you don't say certain things the right way, you remind me of a whistle, like a dog whisperer. And that's the same thing Ye's idol, Donald Trump, that's the same thing that he does. He dog whistles. So when he says, oh, slavery was a choice, he didn't elaborate the way that Tad just said it. He didn't elaborate and say, oh, he wasn't talking about the act of slave. He's saying, oh, if you decide to be a slave, then that's a choice. He didn't say that. He just said slavery is a choice. So it's open for white people to go and rock with that and be like, oh, y'all should have said y'all didn't want to be slaves. The same way he's saying what he's saying now. White lives matter. He's not specifically saying, oh, you know, whatever about, oh, Black people matter too as well. And even though he said it on the joint, why didn't he, if this is my thing, why didn't he just come and say, I love white people? Why didn't he just make a t-shirt that says, I love white people? Because if that was his point, right? If that was his whole point and his whole message was to make a t-shirt to say, I love white people, right? Then y'all hear me still? Because it cut out just now.
Yeah, no, we hear you. Ashe, can you hear us?
You hear me?
I think we lost him. Hold on, let me try to pull you out and bring you back in. That didn't sound too good, Keisha. Oh, Lord. Y'all missed that. Good.
I did.
Shut up, Tad. Oh, Lord. Okay, let me try. I'm bringing Sister Marcia. Let me see. There go Ashe. Hold on.
Boom. Right. I cut my Wi-Fi off. I had the Trump Wi-Fi thing.
All right, we got you.
This is my quick point before I pass the mic. If his whole thing was to say, white people, he said, why do white lives matter? He said it because white lives matter. So then why didn't he just use the slogan, I love white people? He could have put that on the T, I love white people. He didn't. He strategically chose to use white lives matter because he wanted to play a pun and put a spin on of what the Black people organization was doing with Black Lives Matter. But what my point is, there's always a higher road that you could take that doesn't compromise Black people. And he never does that. When he said slavery was a choice, when he wore the Confederate flag, when he married Kim, when he said white lives matter, when he said we changing it to Black Future Month, all of these things that he do, he don't have no guidance. He don't have no counsel. He don't have no elders around him. So he's making all of these decisions and it's not executed properly. Go ahead, Ty.
No, I want to charge us with something because, you know, like you said, it is a dog whistle when he talked. I pick up on the things he said. His elders, actually his father, and I'm trying to remember, somebody from our community, an elder that we revere, knows his father. I can't remember who it is. So I'm going to charge all of us, the audience as well, find out who Kanye's father is connected to in the African-centered movement. I think that's real powerful because that's who his elder is, and his father is comrades with a lot of elders in the movement. I think, and when I say it's a dog whistle, he don't know how to articulate information he may be picking up around these conversations. It's like when I was around Dr. Khalid, right? Dr. Khalid would say stuff and I had no idea what he was talking about because my level of consciousness wasn't there. And some of the things I did not agree with because it was outside of my scope of awareness, but I didn't have the information to argue or disagree with them, right? But I say that to say that Kanye is like the old me. You around people that got this knowledge and you trying to spit it, but you don't know how to spit it right. And that's what's happening with him.
I want to say that.
I'm sorry?
Say because Kanye wasn't, I mean, I'm pretty sure back in the day, I don't know what you was doing, but
no, I was wilding.
But the way Kanye West is, he's an integrationist. He's for everybody.
That I'm not.
And so when you bring up the point about you back in the days when you talk about Khalid Muhammad, right? Khalid Muhammad was saying stuff that was just over your head because your consciousness and your level of information wasn't there. Not because he was saying stuff that you could take either way. Khalid Muhammad was always standing on his square, straight to the point, Black power, I'm for Black people. Kanye West is always leaving something else out there because remember, he wants to run for president. So now he's saying, oh, everything is presidential. But it's not just for presidential because he has white family.
Nah, he want to go home. He said that.
His children are white.
He want to go home.
His children are white. He always say they Black, but they half Black, half white. His wife is white, which he wants to get back to. So, and he has Jewish friends. He said it himself. You know what I'm saying? So that shows you right there that he's not compromised. He's willingly
right. I'm not
opening everything up.
You're right with that. I was just talking about the level of consciousness and being able to articulate it. Because, you know, we always say all of us are growing on this show. Everybody, even our guests, whatever we know right now, we'll know a lot more for 5 years from now. And our position right now may not be the same 5 years later. It may be with more information, it may not be. But I'm just saying, all of us are growing. And to your point about the dog whistle, those are the things I pick up on with him because I'm still in the hood, like literally right now. And I'm always around people trying to articulate a point. They know how they feel and they know who the enemy is. They just can't articulate it and express it. But nonetheless, they still might mess with a Urugu because I'm in a gentrified hood. So they'll still be like, see a white girl while we on the corner. How you doing? Like,
yo, bro. Before I pass the mic to my sister Marcia, right? I just want to say, because remember my second point, you actually helped me bring it up again. Because my second point, right, is exactly what you're saying, Tad.
Yeah.
The fact is that when you have a council, when you have elders, because I don't care who his elder is, when we find out eventually, we already know that his elder ain't solid because he not, or either his elder ain't solid or he not standing on what his elder is telling him. Because if you got elders and they solid Africans and they allowing you to mix and mingle and do the things that you're doing with these other people that are not African, I mean, it can't be that of an African-centered elder. Otherwise, Kanye wouldn't be the way he is right now. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there. But my point
I think he's just not on his square. I think he's off his square. Because I think
but that's my point. And let me pass the mic with this. That's exactly my point, Tad. This is my point. When it comes to leadership in the community of Black people, when I said earlier about being strategic, you can't just go on the goddamn world stage and talk for all Black people, especially when you have dollars on that level, billionaire on that level, to make moves happen and make decisions solely out of your mind for the whole goddamn race, or at least the African Americans, the whole nation of Black people. You can't do that without guidance and counsel from the whole community. You know what I'm saying? From the elders and from people that's coming from an African centered perspective with our best interests. Malcolm couldn't get on the stage without getting the approval. Khalid couldn't get on the stage without getting the approval. So you think somebody with $1 billion that is able to move and shake should have the ability to not have counsel? I can't even say certain things without Tad and Keisha co-signing off on that. And I look to them for that to make sure I'm on my square. But his personality, he's an egotistical person and he's mentally ill. So he will never do that. He's beyond reproach. He's beyond judgment. Nobody can tell him nothing unless you got more money than him. So
he did say that. You can't tell.
He shouldn't even be speaking. That's my point. He shouldn't even be speaking and making these kind of decisions without guidance and counsel. Why is it that Farrakhan had to reach out to him after he already made the mistake? Or not the mistake, I won't call it the mistake, but after he said what he said, you know what I'm saying? Then Farrakhan had to reach out after him and all. There should have been conversations before that. And if it's not Farrakhan, it's somebody else. It's a whole council of people. But I'm going to pass the mic with that because we have a lot of that. We have a lot of these people that are so-called. It's the same thing. We get some kind of leader and they want to stand on the front stage and the bright lights hit them. And they think that the whole show is about them and not for the whole goddamn race of Black people.
I agree 100%.
Family, we have our guest in queue. So this conversation is getting hot, boy.
Yeah. I want to salute our brother Blacksmith and our sister Marcia,
yes.
too. Marcia,
what's good with you, Black? How you feeling?
I'm peace.
Glad to be Black again. We in full effect. So I know the tag team, Brother Black and Sister Marcia, gonna come with some serious questions for our guests. First, let me give a shout out to F&P Accessories for hooking me up with the fedora, royal blue and pink, baby. Black-owned company. We don't play no games over here.
It is me. It is me.
It's me, Brother Tad. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Rocking.
So again, I'm so excited to have this special guest with us this evening. I've been following her for, I guess, at least 15 years. She don't know that, but I'm saying it. I've been following her for like 15 years. Just her work. She inspired me actually to research my own family on both sides of my family. And y'all know my research game with my family. I don't play no games with that. 100. Now, have y'all seen this film, Alice? Did y'all get a chance to check?
I just watched it.
Starring Keke Palmer and Common.
Yeah.
I started, didn't finish it.
Well, it's allegedly based off the life of Mrs. Mae Louise Walls Miller, whose family was held on a plantation to work until 1963. Now, it's my understanding that the producers of this film reach out to Dr. Harrell, who was the researcher behind this story, didn't reach out to the family. But we're going to get into all of that. Now, I know a lot of you have been told that slavery ended in 1863 and all this shenanigans, as we often say here on this platform. But tonight, we're going to get some truth. We're going to get some real understanding about peonage, about this particular family, and about Dr. Harrell herself. Sister Marcia, Brother Black, have you ever heard of Dr. Antoinette Harrell prior to this?
No, not me.
Marcia?
Absolutely not. And when you sent me the information, I did some research really quickly on her, and I'm just here to learn right now. I'm going to be a quiet
Facts.
little student
See
and
what?
learn. Yep.
Get your pen and pad
Paper,
ready.
pen. I'm ready.
We ready to learn tonight. We
Yes,
ready to get
ma'am.
schooled and scholar. So
Yes, ma'am.
we're about to bring in our guest. Let's give her a proper intro. Hold on, family. Here we go. Family, we welcome our guest this evening, Brother Black, Sister Marcia. I'm going to ask you to mute your mics until question and answers because I do not want any interference because I'm going to be upset. I need to learn tonight. I got my pen and pad ready. So, school is in session. Dr. Antoinette Harrell is in the building. Welcome to Thorough Black Talk Worldview, Queen Mother. We are honored and excited to have you with us tonight to
Thank you,
learn and be educated.
my beautiful sister, and thank all of you all. It's a pleasure to come, and it's an honor to come and share with you some things that I have learned along the way that I didn't know myself. And I like what I heard what each one of you said. I'm here to learn. And there's an old saying that say, when the students are ready, the teacher will show up. And so I thank you for being thirsty for this knowledge that I have to share. There's only one thing that I require of you. When you learn, it's your responsibility to teach someone else and to liberate and to educate and to know truth and stand on truth and seek justice for the past, the present, and those that is yet to come. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. First, introduce yourself to our audience. I know you to be a genealogist and researcher. Um, in my humble opinion, a premier scholar in that field. How did you start in genealogy research? How did you come about that?
Knowledge of self is the first and the most important knowledge that anyone can ever acquire. And during the ugly atrocity of slavery, that knowledge was extracted from me. Knowledge of who I am, who was those that came before me. It took my identity away. That's where the confusion comes in now, not knowing. My mother, who has crossed over to be an ancestor, would always share that knowledge with me. I don't care how many times a day I called to say, "Hey, Ma, how you doing?" And once I get past how you doing, she's going to find a way to talk about her family, those that came before her. And at one time, in my ignorance, I would say, "Here we go again. She's about to tell me the same thing that she has given me 100 times over." And in my ignorance, it was like one of the ancestors said, "No, wait a minute. She's trying to tell you something. She's giving you the keys to knowledge that you need to have for yourself so that you can be aware, to know, and so many other things." I started writing down everything my mother was telling me. And she sent me on a journey. I said, "Wait a minute. She didn't write it down, but she's the keeper of the history." Now, I come from a large family. And when I say a large family, I mean a very large family. But if I found one, two that would talk about the family history, I was blessed with that one, my mother. She shared history with me. And that was the beginning of me going back, going back. In the spirit of Sankofa said to go back. Not about just fetching the past, but learning. I had to know, who was my great grandmother? Who Who was my great grandfather? What did they do? I want to know everything I could about them. And I'm starting this trail. I'm taking those names that my mother have blessed me with. I'm going into the courthouse now because you see, my mother was talking about a period where they was denied her ancestors was denied the privilege to read and write. My mother didn't know where to start. But here I come with the knowledge that was blessed with to go look in the courthouse. Let's go look in the library. Let's go look. Let's go look. Not that I found many things about me, but the things I did find.
I see so many families that you personally helped find their family lineage and have them more interested in learning about their families. One of the things that I love what you just said about sitting at the feet of one or two family members to get the family history. Just recently, um, I think it was in August, I went to sit with my father's oldest sister to learn, and she is, shout out to Aunt Pauline, I believe 83 years young, um, to sit at her feet, at her table, to go through all of the family documents that she had. No one knew that she had all of these documents. Her grandfather's letter of birth on a plantation. Um, she had my grandfather's military information. When he came from the military, when he worked for the post office. I mean, so much information. And I just took it all. I took photographs because some of the documents that she had, again, of my great great grandfather, go back to the 1800s. And so I had to take photographs of some of those things because they were so fragile. And, you know, my cousin Joanne and my Aunt Marie, shout out to Aunt Marie. I know she's watching. But my Aunt Pauline had all of these photo albums and books. And they brought them out to me so that I can go through them. But, you know, the first thing I said was, don't touch anything. Nobody touch anything. These documents are too fragile. But to learn so much about who we are, where we came from, what happened to family members of ours, um, it can be very overwhelming. It can be, I don't know, I had to sit with myself for a while. Just looking at the documents and how they identify my ancestors as non human was powerful in itself. And I try to encourage people to learn their family's history. Um, you know, as Brother Tad said, we learn from so many great scholars, but very few talk about their own family lineage. And to me, that's a problem. That's a problem. And we have to do better in that. Um, Dr. Harrell, one of the stories that I saw you work on, I think, if I'm wrong, you can correct me, maybe about 15 years ago, and that is of Mae Louise Walls Miller. Um, I'm going to play a little clip for our audience just so they can understand um, what sister or the Queen Mother, I should say, Queen Mother Mae and her family endured. Hold on one second, family, and then we'll come back with Dr. Harrell to give us truth and insight on this particular story of a family that was held on a plantation until the 1960s. Is that correct, Dr. Harrell?
Yeah, 1963.
Okay, 1963. I want you, because the video on YouTube, and I want y'all to follow Nurturing Our Roots on Instagram and on YouTube. Please follow Nurturing Our Roots. on both media apparatuses. But I want you to hear from this Queen Mother her story just a little bit, because this story really digs into my soul. And let me stop talking. Hold on one second, family.
So much. We didn't have no clothes to wear. We didn't have no shoes. We didn't have food to eat. We didn't have a bed to sleep in. We didn't have a house to live in. We slept on the grass or the dirt or the hay. Pulled the hay over on top of us for our cook. We had a crocker sack for our clothes, which was a one piece. That was it. They cut a hole in each arm, a hole in the neck, and that was your clothes. The men and the women. And for the food, like Tom, we caught what we ate, and we ate what we caught. It was from the stales to the worms, from the worm to bird eggs, from bird eggs to birds, crickets, rabbits, snakes, everything but a squirrel. We never caught a squirrel. A squirrel was a bit too fast for us. But anything else that comes up between the seven of us, it belonged to us. We didn't have no stove to cook on, so we took bites, you know. I just say, what? People saying now you can't eat all this, you can't eat all that. Oh, when you see survivors on television, that's just a sound. We are to survive. Every once in a while we did get to get a meal, what they call a meal, but it was the food that they had right from the tables, or maybe about a month, they would rip it all in a tube or big old thing, and you sit out on the tree. They have a cold liver, it's time for you to eat. When we really know what a spoon and a fork was, it was in the 60s. We ate like a, we laid like dogs, and we ate like a hog. We ate with our head, so we put our mouth in the pots, or dipped it with our hands. We didn't get too much food. We didn't know what school was. Well, I got a little bit of school since I've been old. I went to night school, I learned how to count. I could write my name. But not that good. But all the beings that you hear people talking about, we live this. You got beat from sun up to the sundown. Because if you was in the cotton field and you raised up, you had somebody with a whip. I'm familiar with a whip either. Y'all are young, they had a whip. And they would hit you one time with that whip, and the snake had 50 lashes on your back. Because that whip wrapped around and around you, and blood is a fly. And they beat my daddy from sun up to sundown, and all he did was work. They killed people in front of our face. We see them hanging from the tree. We see them take babies, cut them in little better pieces, put them in this sack, go fishing with them. So you killed my auntie, chopped her up in pieces. And I also murdered my uncle.
Family, I know that may have been a little hard to hear. I'm going to put the link in the chat box so you guys can watch it at your leisure. But Dr. Harrell, how did you come upon this story of Mae Louise Miller?
I was conducting a genealogy workshop, a genealogy reputation workshop in Amid, Louisiana. And we was at the end, and May came in at the very end of the workshop she had heard about. And she said, I gotta tell you my story. She told my youngest son, he said, well, ma'am, it's over with. We're getting ready to go. And she said, look, just go get your mom or whoever, you know. And he did. And when she told me her story, I wasn't really surprised because I had met other people in St. John's, St. Charles Parish that was afraid to talk about it. There was others before May, but May was just one that was, had made up her mind, look, I'm not going to keep it any longer. The family, um, she arranged for me to meet her father, who was 105 at the time, I think, when I
Wow.
first met him. And wow, if I could be blessed to have just a little fraction of his memories that he had at 105 years old, And so I had an opportunity to talk not only to May, but to several of her family members. And for the first time, they had started to share their experience with each other. What they went through is what they went through, but what happened to them individually, they didn't want to talk about it. But I wasn't surprised because I had met others before that was in the same type of system. May's brother was, I don't know if y'all saw the documentary Vice.
Yes.
Okay, that was her brother. Under the title, they have Arthur Miller, but that was a typo with the producer. That was Arthur Walls. That was May's brother talking about his experience. Um,
I saw in a documentary, the Vice documentary, how he spoke of the plantation owners doing what they wished with his mother.
yes. And May talked about that too. She told me about the time that her mother, she and her mother both was raped at the same time, and the man and his son raped her and her mother, and the man's wife was right there, and he said to her, told her son and her husband, not her, referring to May, and she referred to May as a yearling. And so when I learned what a yearling was, it was a calf that was younger than 1 years old. I mean, a year. And so May was equal to that of a calf, but they went on to proceed to rape her. The son raped her, and the mother was raped by the father. And at the end, she said she remembered the white woman giving her a rag. She said was a rag to wipe up the blood that was coming from her body. And she believed to the day that she died that that was the reason why she couldn't have children. And she never physically gave birth to any children.
It's sort of reminiscent of something that similarly happened with Fannie Lou Hamer.
Hmm.
Um, One of the things that struck me in her story was when she said, you know, there were members of the family who tried to escape, to run away, and they will be brought back
Hmm.
to that plantation, whether it was the sheriff or people in the town. Can you speak to that?
Oh yeah. I interviewed many people who said the same thing, that they would try to sneak away through the night, because if they tried to run away. Now you got to remember that, I don't know, most of you all may live on the East Coast, but when you're talking about it in rural communities, and you're talking about getting off the main highway, the main intersection, and you're going off into the woods and these lonely back roads. Well, when they ran away, who could they run to? Because everybody was basically involved, the sheriff, the judge, the large landowner. So they had no way to get away. May's father tried to get away. He thought he had got away. And they caught him and took him back, and he got a beating for that. I remember another case that I came across, this man in um Jasper, Texas. So if you know, write this book down, lay this body down. And that's a very small book, but the book is so painful, it's hard for me to read. Lay this body down. And there's a man that was enslaved. His name is John. Well, John thought that when somebody got off that plantation, they had made it to Africa because nobody ever escaped. 4,000 acres, I think, if I'm recalling right, 4,000 to 6,000 acres. But the owner was so mean and treacherous that he would have this man kill those that tried to get away. So if you tried to get away, you either get away, but if they caught you, you was going to be punished for that. Just as if you're talking about legal slavery and chattel property.
Unbelievable. Now, with the peonage system, first, can you explain what peonage is for our viewers here who don't
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Let me just say that when slavery was abolished or supposed to be abolished, you think about our ancestors, they danced all night, they cried all night, they was excited about the new form of freedom, and then it's like some type of natural high of anything. They came down and realized, where are we going to go? So no matter where they went, someone was being shot down. They was seeing all, just still facing in what they called this freedom with nowhere to go. So in 1866, they devised a contract called the Freeman Bureau Contracts. And that was in exchange for working the land and me giving you a place to stay, providing you with seeds and clothes. This is what you're going to do. You're going to give me this, and I'm going to get this from your pro. And at the end of the year, many of our ancestors who couldn't read and write, and even if they knew how to read and write, you think they would go in there and call the white man a liar? You say, Mr. So and so, I know that boy, you don't know nothing. Are you talking back to me? And that's what many of them face. And so at the end of the year, well, just go back and work a little bit harder. Maybe next to the end of the year, you'll do well. So to define peonage, I'm going to give you, if I was a slaveholder, I would give you the seeds, the place to stay, the tools, and you work the land in exchange for the services that was given, the labor that was being taken.
And in situations with um, Queen Mother Mae Miller, even if they worked, it was never enough. So they could never get away. They could never be finished.
Never.
So they were brought back to this plantation. She tells the story of her uncle who escaped and not escaped, but was told to dig a hole in the ground. And when he dug this hole, um, plantation owner told him to throw the shovel up, shot him, and buried him in there.
Yeah, Mae's father often talked about his brother. Um, the white owner of the land was having a sexual relationship or raping his wife. Wasn't a sexual relationship, it was a rape. And whenever he come to the door for the wife, well, in that time, if a black man had a wife and the person would come to the house, what could he do? Either he's gonna do something, or everybody's gonna be killed, and he turned the other way. But that particular day, when he came for his wife, she said no. And when she said no, she was also shot in the stomach. And when he had him to dig the grave, he didn't know who he was digging the grave for. He just had no idea that it was going to be him. And they shot him. But that, I've heard many people who wanted to talk about it and some who chose not to, especially people who are still living in those small communities with the same surnames in power. in power.
The story of that she told of, I mean, family, just imagine this trauma that you would have to endure consistently. May tells the story of how they cut her aunt up in pieces, cut a baby up in pieces, put the body in a Kroger sack, and went fishing with him.
Yeah, I've heard her family say that on numerous of occasions that children, babies would come up missing. And if a baby came up missing, that baby was just missing. There was no police or no sheriff that was going to go looking for this black baby. And sometimes if some of the white people who was against this type of behavior, they would tell them, look, they're going to be riding tonight going fishing. And so the women would start to take their babies and keep their babies close to them because there was what they felt powerless, because what they said, if they said something, what was called the night riders would ride. And, you know.
Just so disturbing. And one of the things we talk about on this program is badges of slavery. Here you have, because as she said many times in describing her and her family's story, that, as you mentioned here, some people did try to run away, were brought back. How the sheriff and people in power were complicit in this operation, meaning that this is state sanctioned slavery.
Well, you got to remember now, Mississippi just eradicated slavery off the books a couple of years ago. It was on them.
I was about to mention that. Go ahead.
It was still legal. It was still legal to hold people in slavery. One of the questions, I want to go somewhere else if you would, while I'm thinking about it. I never, in all of my years, and sitting here right now talking to you all is disturbing me at this point. I couldn't even imagine somebody living through it. But what's more disturbing is that Mae is gone. So you're hearing it from me, but when Mae was living, where was the historical Black universities and the people that can say, hey, look, let's talk about this. Let's hear what Queen Mother has to say. Why did she have to go? And there was so much more she could have shared. There's so much more Arthur have inside of him that if they don't talk about it, they take it to the grave with them, while we are really trying to hear it, look at it through Bollywood and all the, the movie just came out. But what about the people who actually live it? This is what the true lessons are, so we can really understand that slavery disguised itself. And as Doug Blackman books say, slavery by another name. We're seeing slavery right now in a different form. It's not abolished. It's not over. You think the people in power who built and built this country off our back have turned it back to slavery? This is not something that's in a textbook. You're not finding this in anybody's textbook, whether it's in high school, college. You're not going to find it. You have to hear it from the people who actually live it. When people say that slavery was, we can go and think about Juneteenth. Okay, yeah, that's for Galveston. But I always say, when did it end? When will it end? 1865, 1867, 1875. What I know from what I read at the National Archive, the last report came in 1973. So we should have all the years just consecutively run. When did you get your freedom? Do you know your family history? Can your family history speak to you and tell you when your family was abolished? When was history abolished for your family? And you're not going to know that, because we know more about Beyonce's daughter, her father's name, her grandmother's name, and don't know our own grandmother's name. We have always kept the history. I don't care by any means necessary. We got to tell our history. Now they got critical race thinking. You can't even talk about it. Who said we can't talk about it? We're talking about it on your show. We're talking about it here. We got to talk about it. We can't let someone say, look, I don't want my sons and my daughter to learn about what we did. Well, your ancestors did it. And there's no such thing that is too dark to talk about. Too dark for who? For who? No. How can we talk about reparations without talking about family history?
That's right.
Do you know who owned your family? Can you follow the paper trail? Do you know? When we say,
you got to ask the question, is it possible that some of your family members were still held on these plantations until the 1970s?
Exactly, because with the Great Migration, when everybody who left the cotton fields and left the sugarcane fields and went up to the cities, we start separating then. Because guess what? You had the factory slaves versus the field slaves. But see, the field slaves was able to feed themselves. See, they don't know nothing about they don't know nothing about the Great Depression because they still had food down in the South. See, Big Mama knew how to take them greens and, make a meal. So they wasn't in nobody's soup line. So we became divided. And so then some of us even became ashamed to say that we had family down South. And we left. And some of us had to run. Uncle had to change his name because, the white women was after him, and then when the lies came about, he had to leave. And then those that were standing up for their land, defending their land, that they put them pennies together to buy. They ran to save their lives and never looked back. And there was always somebody left back. Maybe Big Mama was too old to go. And some of the children stayed with her. And we don't know who we are. Let me just say this. We don't know who we are. I don't know what my name is. All I know is that when they had me as a slave, my family up as a slave in Virginia and walked down here to Mississippi and Louisiana, I don't know what they did. That's my birthright. That's the first reparations right there.
Yeah.
Sisters marrying these we see, and there's a reason too that sometimes the elders didn't want to tell you because it hurts so bad. They got to take you into some places, some dark places that you ain't ready for. They love you so much that they'll say, no, I don't want to talk about that. And they drop their head. They don't talk about it. Because it hurts so bad. She don't want to recall her son being lynched. She don't want to talk about them babies that her daughter had for the slave owner or for his son. She don't want to talk about it. She don't want to talk about what she had to witness. Because she called herself sparing us. And look at where we are now. First thing we said, it happened a long time ago. Let's not talk about that. Why we got to keep on talking about that? Then we start saying it. Then we start singing it. And then we start saying, I don't want to see another slave movie.
Exactly, because they don't want to deal with that trauma. People like to escape because to deal with it, you have to be active after you know it.
That's right.
And some people are afraid of what they can and won't do. But you have to change that narrative. And you are absolutely right. Here on Thorough Black Talk Worldview, we always encourage you, research your family's story. Research your family's story. It is very, very important. Because, as you said, the first reparations, that's the first reparations. And this country has to be accountable to that. Um, were there any prosecutions of those who held those plantations or held those people on those plantations
In
after the
some
release of
cases, but
this
not
story?
in Mae's case. Um, no, there was some indictments, but there was none as it relates to Mae or another family who I'm working with. A family of 5 people was sold for $20,
Wow.
and you can look this up on. You could just Google a Negro family sold for $20 in Louisiana. This was in 1926. I just met the grandson a year ago. The grandson of Lewis Allen, the civil rights leader who was killed in Liberty County, Mississippi, the same place where Mae was held a slave. So if you get a chance, do your research on that too. Um, but some indictments, but not in Louisiana. Not in this case, the cases that I work.
Um, and family, please understand. I want you to put yourselves there. As May said, you know, there was no stove to cook. So if you found a snake, you just took a bite out of it to eat. To eat. If you found a worm, share it with the family to eat. They had no beds, no house. They laid on a bale of hay and covered themselves up with a bale of hay. Is it possible that your family members were held on these plantations while you were born, when you were born? But you don't know because you're scared to research your own family history. I want to talk about this film, Alice. Right now, it's on the Stars Network. At least that's where I saw it. Um, it stars Keke Palmer and hip hop artist Common, actor Common. Tell us about the film, Dr. Harrell, and your perspective on it.
Well, I learned of the film on the internet. No one ever consulted myself or the Wall family because I live in a town with the Wall family. They just assumed that I had produced a movie, but I would never disrespect them in such a way to do something without the descendants, and not only that, the ones that is still living. There is 2 of Mae's siblings that still living that shared their story, their experience. I was disappointed with it for that reason. One, not having enough respect to come and talk to the family or myself, especially after using our names to promote the movie in the write up that they had. They mentioned that the movie was, inspired by. And when I talked to the producer, she said that it was based upon her grandmother and other people, but I couldn't understand that because it was surely Mae's name and my name that was mentioned. So I wanted to go and see the movie because I wanted to see what was being produced. Number one, I thought it was a dishonor to Mae because, if someone was held enslaved and they start talking about it, no one ever interviewed the person like, was there others? There was nothing ever done to that nature. And then she gets out in the 70s, and she makes this connection with the 70s music, the 70s setting, the bologna sandwich during that time. But the first thing I wanted to do with Mae is talk about what was life for you all afterwards. What was it like? What was it like? And I found that it was missing some of real important information that could have been very, very helpful to tell the story. But of course, um, we after the because it was always important that I build a relationship. It took years to build that relationship with the Wall family because distrusting of so many people, can't blame them. And then I was happy to see that we went to see it together. And when they realized I had nothing to do with that movie, their relationship with me was more important than that. And I'm glad that overall we still have that. But I personally, myself, I thought it was a dishonor. And that's what happens to us a lot of times that, they can tell it they have the money to produce these movies. And not that we don't have the money these days, is we got the money. We, we can do it ourselves. But we have never been approached by any black production company to tell the true story about Mae and others. And I hope that someone is listening right now can hear what I'm saying. Arthur is still living. You um, he has a lot to share. You know.
Absolutely. Even in watching that Vice piece, I learned so much from what little he did share. But to see the pain in
Mm-hmm.
him,
Mm.
if you can't connect with that, then I don't want to know you. I don't. Also in that Vice piece, they did try to speak with someone else who resided on that plantation, but did not want to tell all that was happening because of the fear. As you said, a lot of people are in fear. And family, if you don't know, as Dr. Harrell mentioned, these excluded rural towns, right now, the level of poverty in some of these places
Mm-hmm.
is mind blowing. They don't have roads. I mean, this is crazy to me. Dr. Harrell, can you speak to the level of poverty in places like Glen Allen and other places down there?
Yeah, when I first started this mission to collect these stories of shit of the sharecropping period, I did not expect to find to see what I saw. Let me just say that, after I went to the National Archives that led me to these areas, and I said, okay, well that's close to home. I can make that trip. When I got there, I just couldn't believe some places in the Mississippi Delta, people were still placing um, tin containers to collect water that was dripping from the roof. Um, some people were still using an outhouse. And it's like I had stepped back into a time, the conditions was really, really terrible. And the place where Emmett Till body was found in Glendora, you know, 200 people in a town population, very, very, very impoverished place. Most of these places like this does not have any type of medical facility. Um, Not even a supermarket, just getting to the grocery store is a task in itself, just to get fresh food and fresh vegetables, but I felt like then I understood why Dr. King had started to organize the Poor People's March on Washington, D.C. And then after, it was also John F. Kennedy and Jesse Jackson. They took the tour. And I remember when I looked at some of the reports that they had written, and someone said there was no hope for the Delta. That was actually some of the findings under Bill Clinton's administration. But I'm gonna say this: the Mississippi Delta Initiative. That's what that was, and I didn't believe in, the 21st century. I was seeing what I was seeing, people with not enough food to eat. And so when we start looking at poverty in a third world country, that's poverty right here in,
Absolutely.
and many different pockets of it too.
I hear a lot of people, talk about places they would like to visit. I think I'm the only person who ever said I want to go to Mississippi because I got it's stuff down there I have to find. I
Hmm.
have to find. And I'm the type that'll take a backpack and show up. But as you said, we have to talk about these stories. But I don't want to hog the mic. I'm gonna let my brother Tad, my brother Ashe, and Sister Marcia ask their questions. Brother Tad, you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, real quick. First a statement, then a question. My statement is I truly, truly appreciate your work, Dr.
Thank
Harrell.
you. Mm-hmm.
And we're just thankful to have you with us on our platform and in our midst in these days and times where many people are having amnesia about the atrocities of what has happened to us and still is happening to us. Now, my question is, were you reading any books about slavery, or were you familiar with the atrocities, or did this experience open your mind and had you dive deeper into the history of what has happened to us here?
I think it was a day camp that I attend when I moved to New Orleans, and it was they called the day camp Tamarine and Fan, and it was for people of African descent, and I just happened to go there, and I became conscious. But my grandmother had shared some things with me, so it was a combination of the elders, like the brother said earlier. You got to talk to the elders, and so that but see, the elders want we're not talking to them. We're talking to everybody else, but not talking to the elders. And so those that do want to share, we need to listen to them. But it was a combination for me: books, oral history, experiences from other people, and just wanting to know.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
Brother
Brother
Ashe,
Ashe?
Yes, Dr. Harrell, thank you so much for joining us. This is just amazing. I want to add, was that you in the video standing next to Mae?
Yes.
Oh my, you didn't age a bit. Oh my God, look at you. You look the same way as you did in
What
that.
they say about the melon, huh? What they say. But yes, May and I met May in 20. Wait, it was 2000. See, that's
Wow.
why I got to start talking about this, because see, I'm seeing myself forgetting some time frames, and you know, and that's why talking and see, sometimes I don't have people to talk to about this.
Right.
You see, I don't have too many people because they don't want to hear it, or it's too painful. I'm competing with the football game and what's trending on Instagram. But as I talk about it, it's bringing back more conversations with May and being with them. What was it like for me? I remember one day May's father was watching TV, and he was laying there, and he said, "Oh my God, the white man heard what I told that baby." He always referred to me as his baby. "I told that baby everything, they coming for me." They had to put him in a hospital. And so one of May's sisters said she can't come back around anymore. And I respect that, because I didn't want to lose him, you know. And so about two, I would say I stayed away for about a year. And one day, I think it was CNN, somebody wanted to talk to the family. I said, "Look, I can only call them and ask them. If they say no, no is what it is. I have no authority over that." So when I talked with May, and she said, "Well, let me ask daddy himself." And he said, "Bring her." But I was banded for a year because
Wow.
I felt like some of them felt like I put him in a hospital because I had him to relive all this stuff and rethink this thing. And he's dreaming about it now. He's talking about it in his sleep, which he never stopped talking about it. But they did allow me at times to come sit by the bed with him. And at night, you can hear the names he's calling. Um, and that was a very important part, to share their story, to tell what really happened to this family. I asked May, I said, "May, was there other people living in the same conditions?" She said, "We don't know what condition they was living in, but there was other people on the place too." And I remember I wanted to go back, and I said, "May," I said, "You think we can still find where they held you all at?" She said, "Yes. But by this time, Mae done had a heart attack.
Mm.
And I said, oh no, I can't bring her back.
Right.
And I said, I can't do it. And when I called her two brothers, because People Magazine was looking to do the story by that time, I said, Mae, you can't go. She said, Antoinette, I'm going to go. But I went before.
Mm.
And I went. I didn't take Mae. I had Mae on the phone and was hoping that I wouldn't lose reception. And I followed her instructions. And I kid you not. I'm in the woods, and these lone whispering pines, tall. It's getting dark, and I'm racing against time. And the people who was with me, they was following me. And I don't want nobody to talk to me when I'm out there. Don't talk to me. Let them guide me where I need to go. And it kept saying, just go a little further, don't turn back. I went, it's dark where I am because I'm traveling through the woods, hoping that I don't get caught. Realizing that if we get caught, we don't know what we're going to face back then if we come out. I went a little further and I find the green creek that Mae and them had to drink out of. And over that green creek, the sun was still shining, but behind me, it was dark. I couldn't spend too much time because I had to find my way out them woods. So we got out. I called. I said, Mae, I got it. She went back with me the next time I went.
Mm.
And she cried. And she cried. We all cried. Now, she had had a heart attack, and I wasn't sure that she was going to be all right, but I took some other people with me too, but she found it. We found it. She said, that's the creek. That's the creek we had to drink out of. And I remember her talking about they had to get their water out this green creek where the cows would bathe and defecate and all that, that was the water. And when People Magazine came back with us at a different time, Mae and her brother, and I was standing there watching them. I had never seen fright. And I was close enough to hear what one of the brothers say, I'm ready to get out of here. I don't like this.
Wow.
And I wanted to take that picture, get out of here. Let's get out. Because you can see in their face the fear. All three of them. It was Mae and two of her brothers. And if you look online at People Magazine, you're going to see that picture that I'm talking about. So everything I'm telling you, there's a reference to it. You will see. They stand up there, but they didn't want to be there. And I don't know where it is about this 50, the number 50, but the pastor Gaddy, his name is John Lee Gaddy, and he was at Arthur G. Dozer School in the same system, but it was a state-ran school, right? We went back 50 years after. That was the first time he had went back 50 years. And it looked like everybody who I was taking back, it was 50 years later. I still don't understand that the 50-year anniversary is to all of that. But we went. And each time that we went, when we went down to Florida, me and my team, I had got a message the night before that we shouldn't come to Florida because the KKK was going to be waiting for us. But we went anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I wanted to add to, I totally agree with you on the movie, the film. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm grateful that it was made because it brought light to it. Because I never heard of the story of Queen Mother Miller. But when I watched the movie, it was kind of anticlimactic for me as well, and very unrealistic, especially the point where she got out and they made it seem like she read a book or two, a couple books, and after that afternoon of studying, she was hip and she was down, and because she went to see the coffee movie Pam Grier, which of course they put Pam Grier in front of the black woman because in that movie she was also a prostitute, I believe, and having sex with everything around. So there's irony and little things that Hollywood does, you know. But the point that I want to make, and I want to ask you is, you know, parts of the film seem so unrealistic, but I'm realizing this trend that's happening with black movies that are being made in Hollywood, where now they used to give us stories that were true stories, but now they're saying based around or based loosely on true stories, because they did this with Alice and they also did this with The Woman King.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to see these movies that some of our people, especially our children, are watching these films and thinking that they're historically accurate when they're absolutely not. It's a writer that created the whole storyline is fictional. Why couldn't they just keep it on the truth about Queen Mother Mae and about the real Dahomey tribe and things of that nature? I feel like they're putting a spin on every little thing to make it seem like something is empowering for us. But at the end of the day, it's kind of detrimental when they don't tell a full story. How do you feel about that with all of these films?
If it wasn't for the family and my relationship, I wouldn't have saw the movie Alice and any of the other movies. Mike Tyson just complained about, he talked about what they just did with him. Jeffrey Diamond's sister just talked about what happened to her. And so we're seeing this trend. But see, it's like this. When you meet them at the box office and not go and see it, or meet them wherever, we have to send a powerful message saying, you know what, we're not going to support this. So that means that we have to pool our dollars together with all these very knowledgeable film producers and give this money to them to tell the story. We don't need to go to the movies to see. We got all these venues to tell the story, the true story, not watered down or not some type of based up on, a little based 2%, and the rest of it is like, what happened to Mae when she did get her freedom? Where did they go? Who, how did they get to where they was going? Who helped them to get 20 miles from where they ran away from? What's the first family member that took them in? You know what I'm saying? Did anybody take them to the doctor to find out what was going on with them? When did they enroll in school? All these are, is there other people? Can you tell us about other conditions? Did y'all see other people working? But at the end of the movie, just to get the gun and go back and shoot everybody, not even one, you hear a story like that today, you might have every news segment out that's running down there to try to get the story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There may be some press conferences around this here, this family just, and it has been done, So I'm not in favor of those type of movies.
Sister Marcia, you have any questions for our guest?
First off, Dr. Harrell, I just want to thank you for your work and your efforts and retelling our stories, because we so often want to bury our stories. I just can't imagine the journey that you went through picking up this story and how it impacted your life. And the next time you have a trip, I know it's not for fun, but I would love to be a field study with you to connect with the stories and understand how our people has suffered. My family I'm a immigrant. I came into this country, but the story is the same across everywhere. Mm-hmm. And until we as a collective understand that we share the same stories, we're still going to be very divisive and divisive. And I thank you for just putting that light into it, because I can tie in so many stories I've heard from my own family living in certain conditions as well, so I appreciate that. The question that I had is in regards to the children that they used for hunting purposes. And I remember there is a museum in Florida who collects that type of artifact. And how, when I heard that, like, a little baby, why would you torment a baby, and how it impacts the family? And just thinking about how we're treating our children today with so little reverence. I feel like somehow those atrocities is impacting how we are connecting with our children today, which is really, really sad. And this is too much for me. I appreciate you. I can't speak right now, but I don't think I have a question. I think I was just making a couple of statements.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Brother Black, any questions for our guests? Because we ran out of time.
I don't really have a question. I just have a statement. It was amazing to me because when Sister came on with Sister Mae, it was amazing to me how much she really looks like Callie House. When the first frame, I was like, "That's Callie House." I'm like, "Oh no, it's not Callie House," because then she started talking and all that. And as I've watched her over the years, I knew her voice and all that. So I was like, wow, I'm impressed. Thank you, sister. And I don't have any questions. I'm just taking it all in.
I would like to add real quick, this whole story is just very similar. In fact, quite the same story as the Juneteenth story. I mean, the fact that these people were enslaved after the proclamation. And I mean, in this case, it was obviously a lot more years, but it's very interesting. And with Juneteenth being this whole, marketable thing now, it's shocking that this film wasn't like a more broad film, or even they didn't make a film about Juneteenth before making a fictional film. It's so many things that just make me question. But I mean, we already know, like we said, Hollywood, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have our best interests. But I just hope that this film just kind of like opens the eyes of some people and makes us want to go back and actually do the real work of studying the true story of, Queen Mother Miller and all of the people in Texas, in relationship to the actual Juneteenth, because the stories are so similar that we just have to really spark the interest and really I guess to really put the dollars into the true story so we can tell, our truth and not let other people make our movies for us and tell our story.
True. Yes. Thank you.
So I want to also add that we're definitely going to have you back, because I mean, I'm quite sure there's so much more that you can share with us. And I think this is very important, particularly for folks like us that are constantly trying to drill it into the people's heads. Like I always say, we're preaching to the choir, but we have to expand our reach to those who never heard this information before. Many of the people in our audience, they're familiar with things similar to this, not particularly, because, this is within our lifetime. We're constantly hearing this as if it happened centuries ago. But it's kind of shocking when you realize that within our lifetime, within our family's lifetime, that these things are still happening, because we talk about the covert system of oppression and slavery through the prison industrial complex, the dumbing down of our children in school. But this is so overt and blatant and in your face. So even when we talk about reparations, and people, I don't think these people should get reparations. Because, as we were talking about at the top of the show with Kanye and JP Morgan Chase Bank, we talked about Chase Bank holding enslaved ancestors as collateral. And that's one business, because it was an industry. The banking industry, the insurance industry, even the Brook brothers got their start with making clothes for the plantation owners, as well as burlap sacks for our enslaved ancestors. So this is not just isolated incidences. This is a system that is well oiled and still going. So we definitely have to have you back again in the near future, just
Well,
to
thank you.
just to
I
continue to share with us.
thank you so much. I would like for you all to please consider inviting Johnny Lee Gaddy, who is 70 years old, to tell his story.
Okay.
His story. It's always good to hear it from me as a researcher, but it's always good to hear it from the person who went through it. And this is your opportunity.
Yes.
Johnny would talk about the alligators and what he saw, what he witnessed, and if you all would, please hear what he have to say.
Most
And
definitely. And I will connect with you um, before the end of this weekend.
okay,
Hopefully, we can get him on as soon as possible.
okay, wonderful. Because we can't put the elders off. We need to hear from them, let them talk, ask the questions, and let them talk. Because the more we let them talk, we're learning. And in my closing, let me say this to you: it's a fine line between sanity and insanity. And I believe in a higher being that protected my mind because I went into some dark places. And I know that in those dark places, I met the demons from hell disguised in human beings.
Mm.
Mm.
Because only something from a dark world can do these things. My human mind will not even allow me because I'm not from that world. I can't even fathom the thought. So hear it from those. And before I close, let me just say this. There's a man that's 61 years old. I cannot even listen to his interview incomplete. I can't. I listened to it twice and I couldn't talk to him anymore because my spirit is not strong enough to hear. Because when they go back, they're taking me with them.
Mm.
And the reason they take me is because I volunteered to say I opened myself up for it and it came. Not everybody can go back there. Not everybody is strong enough to go back there. So when you go back there and you meet and see what your ancestors saw, I feel like I'm still running. I feel like the hound dogs are still on me mm, in this day and time. So until we come to you and teach you again, but this time I'm bringing the person to you directly. And there
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't wait to set that up. Um, as you said, it's important that we get these stories now. You can't put off the elders. You can't. One of the most emotional moments in my life was going back to the grave site of my sixth great grandfather in this country. Um, it is something, and it takes a lot to learn these stories, to hold this history, and to share this history. Because we got to tell our own stories. It's so happens, Dr. Harrell, that Thorough Black Talk recently interviewed a black filmmaking company who is
Mhm.
currently working on the story of Marcus Messiah Garvey, of which we
Mhm.
are investors in that film. I personally will call the brother to tell this story to see if there is an interest with his production film. Your story alone should be a feature film. Your
Facts.
work doing this work should be a feature film.
Yep.
But I will definitely give him a call also um, to spark that interest at least. So again, we truly, truly appreciate you coming in this evening and giving us this lesson, these many lessons. This is just part one, family, because we gotta have Queen Mother back because I got 3 pages of questions because it's so much that I want to know and learn. When I hear all of these celebrities talking about they have a program overseas and this over there, but if you see the level of poverty in the Delta, it's mind blowing. It is mind blowing. Again, family, please follow Nurturing Our Roots on Instagram, and you can follow Dr. Harrell on YouTube. Look at those videos that she's posted over the years of her doing research. See for yourself so that when someone poses these questions to you, in particular about reparations, you have an arsenal of information that you can strike back with. There is not a question that there should ever be reparations. Dr. Harrell, thank you again for joining us. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. And again, we will talk before the end of this weekend.
Thank you. And in memories of all our ancestors, may they rise in power.
Ashe. Wow.
Well, family, you had it right here, live and direct. If listen, share this program, share it with your family, watch it with your family. Don't ever again let anybody tell you that slavery ended in 1863 or 1865 or 1900.
Or that it ended at all.
Come on, brother Tad. Come with
I
it.
said,
You know, this was powerful tonight. I just love her style of telling our story. I think this is very important. It takes me back to my early readings. Like I said, reading the Confessions of Nat Turner, reading the autobiography, The Life and Times and the Narratives of Frederick Douglass, reading Harriet Tubman, The Moses of Our People, reading the slave narratives by Henry Louis Gates Jr., reading The Bullwhip Days, The Slaves Remember, listening to the interviews of former enslaved people like Fountain Hughes, who is on YouTube. It takes me there. It takes us there. In fact, Sister Keisha, you was talking about going to your great-grandfather's grave. I was fortunate enough to go to my grandfather's grave, where my last name come from, my mother's father. He passed away when my mother was 2. But not only did I visit his grave site, I visited his mother's grave site, my great-grandmother, Henrietta Williams. And they are buried on in a black-only cemetery that's adjacent to a black church that was once the family's church. And a lot of bushes was overgrown, but the spirit led me to the graves, as you know what I'm saying. I put a picture up on social media, and if you can see the pictures of the tombstone, they're almost pretty much buried because of the dirt and debris. They passed in the 50s. I know my grandfather passed in the 50s. I believe it's like 1958 or 1959 that he passed away. And his mother passed away prior to that, And it's just amazing. There's a particular energy that you get when you go south and visit the graves of your ancestors, your immediate direct ancestors, your bloodline. Nothing wrong with visiting the grave of Malcolm and Dr. Ben and Dr. Khaled. There's nothing wrong with paying homage to the elders who put their life on the line for the nation. But there's a particular value in visiting your own direct, immediate bloodline. I can't describe it. When we buried my grandfather in South Carolina, I went to the grave of his parents. He's buried right next to his parents down in Little Mount, South Carolina. Again, all black cemetery adjacent to a church. These things are powerful, and it gives your life a little more meaning and purpose. It helps you find your divine purpose. And part of our purpose, not solely our purpose, but part of our purpose is to know who we are and be able to share our story from our ancestors and pass them on to the generations coming behind us. That's why I always felt it was so important that my granddaughter met my grandmother before my grandmother transitioned. And now I have that picture forever immortalized. You know, me, my grandmother, Zuri, and Kayla. And sure enough, as my grandmother's gone, the babies are growing, you know, but they know that they met her. They know that they knew her. And they have stories to share with their children and grandchildren. And this is important. It helps us reclaim our right mind. Because when we fast forward to 2022, we see we in the midst of chaos. We in the midst of foolishness. We in the midst of all types of craziness and madness. And we can't make heads or tails of it, literally. But I digress.
Brother Black, your final thoughts and comments?
As far as Kanye is concerned, that's the biggest topic as we speak. As far as I'm concerned, white lives do matter. The reason for the White Lives Matter t-shirt was because of somebody that not too many people talking about, and that's Candace Owens, in that she put that documentary together to show you that the Black Lives Matter movement was funded by George Soros to 3 lesbians who then hired mostly, I'd say about 75 to 80% of white people who are losers to go out in there in the name of Black Lives Matter for us to label this as a black movement, which it never was. Never. And y'all know that because y'all in New York and y'all remember when they was having the riots downtown Brooklyn and the surrounding areas around there 2 years ago. Okay, so we gonna forget about that part right there. As far as Kanye is concerned, like Sister Keisha always said, because I'm a targeted individual and I've been going through this for years. Tell me when he lied, even if you don't like his delivery, his approach, or whatever the case may be. And in the case of him having an elder or OG or whatever you want to say that is, that man is named Larry Hoover, who he's been trying to free from prison for a few years ago, along with a brother that's on YouTube. I'm sure some of y'all are aware of him, and he's a personal friend of mine as well. His name is Rod Hayes. These brothers come out of Chicago. You can look them up. They're on Facebook. They're on YouTube. And they, matter of fact, I think Black Magic 313, I believe. He's from New York. I don't know where he's from. He always interviewed Phil Valentine and people like that, Sister Myra and all that. He interviewed Roz Hayes he interviewed him at least 2 or 3 times by now. Okay, as far as that's concerned, I'm gonna go off of that. I've heard through the grapevine that the Supreme Court has nullified the 2022 elections. Remains to be seen. It's just rumors, intellect, is stuff I get, you know, from doing all my research and so on and so forth. Just keep that in your pocket and pull it out if you need to when the time comes. I love y'all. By the way, y'all ain't mentioned my book that exposed the hip hop industry, with the entertainment industry with a focus on hip hop. The name of that book is Boom Bye Bye, Hip Hop Will Never Die. If you want it, get at me on Facebook. My name is Flavius Jones. I'm friends with everybody on the panel. So if you're friends with anybody on the panel, you're not my friend, just go to their pages if you need to find my info. My name is Blacksmith, Flavius Jones on Facebook. Peace to the panel. Thanks for having me back again, Keisha. Long time. Love y'all. Peace.
Yo, bro, real quick, bro. When I said elders, I'm talking about African centered, bro. Of course, those are the only elders of mine, bro. That's the only elders I got. So,
okay,
yeah, I can't really count those as elders, bro. And if they, like I said, when I said it too, if he does have African centered elders, he not standing on what they tell him, or they not solid. They not truly African centered, because he wouldn't be moving the way he moving if he had solid elders and a council to really guide him. I feel like he doing everything on his own, off the whim, off his emotions, and off the fact that he has money to do whatever he wants to do. So,
well, Nick, can I address that real quick for 30 seconds or less? What he did say on the Drink Champs interview was that Larry Hoover was the kind of guy that he wanted to come out of the gangster disciple, the GDs. He did say that on the interview. So I don't know Larry Hoover's history because they all from Chicago, and I don't know what he believes or what he's in prison for. He wasn't a George Jackson, but Kanye's father in particular used to be a Black Panther. And he explained that too. I'm not going to get into that right now because that'd be a different
The
story.
thing about that, you opening up a whole nother can of worms we got to discuss next week, bro. Because
Okay, bro.
Yeah,
That's
next
what's up.
week. Because
yeah,
I got a husband and I'm going to bed.
the thing about, real quick, I'm gonna just say, people try to drop this Black Panther line and drop these names and things of that nature, but when you dissect it, you know what I'm saying? We could all do better. That's all I'm gonna say right there. We could all do better as Black Panthers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because from what I hear, the Black Panthers wasn't, you know, they was doing stuff for Black people, but a lot of them was mixy as well, from what I heard. You know what I'm saying? So we can't just drop those kind of names and be like, oh, you a Black Panther and now you get a pass to be out here with Kim Kardashian and doing all these crazy other things that he do. So we're gonna talk about that later in full detail. But Sister Marcia,
What's up?
Ashe, you said the exact words that was in my head. Thank you so much. My final thoughts is just like Dr. Harrell was telling us, go back, fetch that knowledge, reclaim who you are, and be the greatest person you can ever be, because it is your divine destiny. And may time flourish for us all on this panel, everyone listening. It's our time. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Marcia, Brother Black. Brother Ashe.
yeah, listen, man. I felt Dr. Harrell tonight, and I tell you took the words out of my mouth, bro. Because, and you too, Keisha, because honestly, like I really want to hear more of the story from a, you know, level of like what Mother Miller actually went through, and also what Dr. Harrell went through, you know, just going down there. And Marcia touched on it too, like a very good point about us taking trips to these places. And Taz, shout out to Party and Sister Tam for doing that with the children. And even you, Marcia, doing that with the children, because when you go to these places and see them, it's a totally different thing from reading about it or watching a YouTube video. You physically in that dimension. I loved, one of my favorite things she said tonight, Dr. Harrell, was when she said, we talking about how slavery, we acting as if slavery is over. But right now, if you take a look, she said I could still feel the hound dogs on me. Ooh, when I heard that, that was a bar right there. She said the hound dogs is still on me. Right now, to this day, the hound dogs is on us. And we trying to pretend like they not, or we trying to bend down and pet these goddamn hound dogs like they trained for us to be man's best friend. You know, these hound dogs is trying to bite our heads off. You know what I'm saying? So we better keep on running and act like we know who we are. But you know, we definitely got to have our guests on once more, because I definitely want to, like Ty says, peel back the layers on the emotional state, the psychological state, and all of the details of the things that our ancestors had to go through. But shout out to her for the connect. We definitely want to get that other elder on. Sister Keisha's gonna work behind the scene like she does. And I'm just grateful, man. We back in the building. I'm back. Thorough Black Talk. Shout out to our listening audience. I put a link for the Alice movie in the chat. So if you don't have stars, because I thought I had stars, but I forgot I don't have cable no more, you can actually click the link in the chat. It says Solid African. I put it in the chat, and there's a link right there. You click the link or copy and paste the link, and it'll take you to a web page. You might have to click a few, like close a few ads. But Ashe, I'm the king of finding stuff for free online. So close a few ads. You know, you might have to click. Don't pay for nothing. It's totally free. You just got to close some of the ads, and then the movie will be right there. You can watch the whole Alice movie right there for free, family. So next week, or when we have our next guest on, you'll be well versed. I mean, that story is not 100% factual, but it'll give you the inspiration to do the research and check out the real story. So salute to y'all. It's your brother Fire God Ashe, definitely back in the building. Always remember, true courage is knowing how to suffer, and the battlefield is where you stand. Brother Tad.
Yeah. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, rocking out with us. It's good to see my family back, the whole panel. Sister Marcia, Brother Blacksmith, Brother Ashe, welcome home. Sister Keisha, you know I love you to life. This is dope. Definitely grateful for our guest tonight, Dr. Harrell, and of course, our audience, you know, Aruba 927, Sister Farnessa, Brother Ray, everybody who rock with us, Empress Filet, you know, we love y'all to life. You know, everybody, I can't get to everybody's name right now, But this is very emotional. It was dope for us to come back to this, particularly because where we are, we know Kanye is not mentally balanced. However, he is sparking a conversation for us to take a critical analysis of where we are right now and who's the puppet master pulling the puppet strings. Because too often, prior to this, we were just fighting one another. Black man versus black women, elders versus children. And Kanye has somehow got us to focus back on who's the real enemy pulling these strings, making us pull back the layers, making JP Morgan Chase, the banking system, making the media outlets all show their hands on how they really feel about us. And I think this is very important because we don't have the time nor the luxury to be fighting with one another when we should be fighting with one another together. You know, so I'm grateful for everybody who can really identify what's going on right now, what's at stake, because our children are dying. What Kanye is talking about is very important because some people just look at it as entertainment, but guess what? These young rappers are getting millions of dollars to die. To die. These young people are really dying. Nipsey Hussle is really dead. Tupac Shakur is really dead. Biggie Smalls is really dead. Pop Smoke is really dead. Triple Session is really dead. PNB Rock is really dead. These little dudes are really out here killing each other when they actually have the opportunity and the money to change not only their lives, but their families' lives and the people around them. But without the right information, without the right mindset, without clarity and direction, we're just cannon fodder for the enemy to participate in our genocide. So tonight is very pivotal. So hopefully you learned something tonight and you were inspired. So it's your turn to go out and inspire others. So y'all stay up, y'all stay blessed, y'all stay true, and remember, no matter how hard things may seem right now, it's always better days ahead. Sister Keisha.
Again, family, thank you all for tuning in and joining us. We definitely got to pick this conversation up again next week. Since Brother Black mentioned Larry Hoover, you know, I said in the opening, it's very important that we pay less attention to the talkers and learn more about the architects of movements, including being a gangster. People talk about Larry Hoover. People talk about Nicky Barnes. People talk about Bumpy Johnson and Frank Lucas and all of these great men who went through this system. They all failed. I got to tell the truth. But the architect did not. In fact, she died of old age with her own money, went against the system, showed you how to do it. And that's Madam Stephanie Sinclair. No one calls her name. I don't want to follow nobody who got caught up. Sorry. I want to follow the winners. She was a winner and took some of them out of here. Died in Long Island of old age. I tell you, a lot of people go to Vegas. Nobody ever visits the Mall Museum. So you can see the whole history of who she was, going back to the 5 points game. Okay? So I want to follow the winners. I don't care about losers. It ain't going to work for me. So, and Brother Ashe will tell you, I always say, study the mistakes of history. It teaches you more. So we're going to talk with Dr. Harrell later on before this week ends. We're going to get her back on with the elder. I'm going to make it happen. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to Empress Filet, and the Million Woman March anniversary is coming up October 25th. There's information on a Thorough Black Talk Facebook page. Please check it out. There are a lot of initiatives that she is working on. I think Brother Ashe and myself was at the UN with her and others earlier this year. So it was the Million Woman March that changed Sister Keisha's direction. That's the power of voice. That's the power of command. That's the power of who we are. There was an edict that was sent out by Winnie Mandela by Betty Shabazz. Yes, and even Jada Pinkett. If you wasn't there, then you missed it. I followed the direction that was given to me. The direction that was given to me led me to intense study, deep thought, meditation, and doubled and tripled up on the activism. I did what Queen Winnie Mandela asked me to do. And none of that would have not happened if it wasn't for Empress Filet and MWM. As they come up on their 25th anniversary, family, study more, get involved, follow us on Facebook so you can have all information of what's going on in Philadelphia next week. Y'all stay up, as my brother Taz say, and stay black, god darn it. Don't let nobody take you off your square. Stay black. If you're anything other than that, I'm gonna get at you. I'm telling you, if you don't want my flames, you don't want my flames. I ain't Kanye. I will give you this work. Stay black. Have a good weekend, y'all. We out.